Slope from tables and points. Okay. Slope from tables and points. I'm going to talk about tables first because I think that they are just a little easier to look at. Okay. Okay, so let's say we have this table here, f and f of x. F of x is just another representation for y, so we don't need to worry that that's different. And our table has -4, -2, (0). And then 12, 6, and 0. All right, so to find slope, you need 2 ordered pairs. Ordered pairs. All right, 2 ordered pairs. Any 2 you want, does not matter. You could pick the first and the last. You could pick the bottom 2. You could pick the top 2. Does not matter. Okay, any 2 ordered pairs you want. And what we're going to do to find slope from our table is we're going to pick the 2 points we want. Doesn't matter which 2. I'm just going to pick the first 2. So I'm going to talk about this and this. And remember, slope is rise over run. Another way you might see it represented is delta y over delta x. And what delta means, you might remember from science, is just like change. So the difference, change in y over change in x. Okay, so we pick our 2 points, and then all I have to do is say, what do I either add or subtract to get from -4 to -2? In this case, I'm getting bigger from -4 to -2, so that means I'm adding 2. Good, y'all got me in my chat box, thanks. All right, and then how do I get from 12 to 6? What do we do? Good. Good. I have to subtract 6. All right? Remember, this column is y, so that number goes on top. I put the -6 on top, and I put the +2 on the bottom. -6 over 2 is just -3. All right. Let's take a peek at some others. What does that even say? Oops. All right, so sorry, my computer's really blurry. I'm trying to look at my example here. We have an X, and we have a Y. This time we're going this way. That's okay. Same thing. And we have, let's say, 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17. For X, 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17. And then -4, -5, -6, -7, and -8. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing. We want change in Y over change in X. All right, so I look at Y. I can pick any 2 points I want. I'm going to pick the first 2. What do I do to get from 1 to 5? What do I either need to add or subtract to get from 1 to 5? Good, Kayla, thank you. I add 4. Now what do I do to get from -4 to -5? Good, I have to subtract 1. Good, good, good. Y'all got it. So that means my change in Y is -1. My change in X is 4. I can't simplify that at all, so our slope is just -1/4. And you can double check and see that if you use different points that it would still work. So let's say I used 9 to 17. To get from 9 to 17, I add 8. But then to get from -6 to -8, I subtract 2. And -2 over 8 simplifies to -1/4. Okay, because the slope between all of the points is going to stay the same. That's the point of a line, is the rate of change or the slope stays constant. All right, let's do one more table. Y will not always be negative, Skylar. That's a good question. Those 2 examples, Y was negative, but it will not always be. And X won't always be positive either. So let's look at this one. Remember, again, we're still looking for change in y over change in x. So I picked 2 points. To get from 2 to 2, I add 0. To get from 10 to 18, I add 8. So in this case, my change in y is 8. My change in x is 0. What does this mean that my slope is here? 8 divided by 0. Good, Brianna. 8 divided by 0, remember, you cannot divide by 0. You can't split 8 things into 0 groups. So this means our slope is undefined, which tells us that this is a vertical line. Good. Okay. So let's take a look now. These were all tables. Let's take a peek at some points, okay? So if you're just given 2 points. So the directions might say something like find the slope of a line through each pair of points. So let's do this first. The first example we're going to look at, we have the points -4, +7, and -6, -4. All right, when you are given points, there is a special formula we can use to find the slope, and it is called the slope formula. And it states that m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And if you notice, these are not exponents, they're subscripts. There's the small little number at the bottom, so we're not squaring anything. That's just telling us that we have more than one y to look at. All right, so when you see a problem like this, if you notice, we have 1 point, 2 points. And in each point, you have an x and a y, an x and a y. All right, so to find slope here, we would say m equals. And it doesn't matter which one is your first point and which one is your second point, as long as you keep the x and y that belong together on top of each other. So in this case, if I look at what I labeled, this was my second point. So my y2 is -4. minus my y1, which is 7. And then my x2 is negative 6. And my x1 is negative 4. So it's always subtraction in the middle, and then don't forget the sign that belongs to the number. All right, so we have negative 4 minus 7. Remember, you might need to keep, change. That gives us negative 11. And then I have negative 6 minus a negative 4. Keep, change. That gives me negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Now, a negative divided by a negative, which is what we have here, negative divided by a negative, is going to be positive. So this just becomes positive 11 over 2. Yes, I will, Skylar. And I'm going to show you another way to do this, too. Okay, let's look at another one. We're going to do it the exact same way. And then, like I just said, I'm going to show you another way to do these. Because whether you're finding slope from a graph, a table, or points, you can use whichever method you prefer. For example, if they give you 2 points, if you want to graph them and find the rise and the run, you are more than welcome to. If they give you 2 points and you want it to be a table, you can make it a table. If they give you a graph and you want it to be 2 points, you can make it 2 points, okay? So once you have all the ways to find slope, you can use whichever method you prefer, okay? But let's look at another one just like this. So let's say we have the points 3, 0, and negative 11, negative 15. All right, so again, we have a first point and we have a second point. I have an X and a Y, an X and a Y. Okay, so the formula, remember, I rewrite it, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, if you want this point to be your number 2 and this point to be your number 1, completely fine. It will not change your answer. You can make whichever point number 1 you want and whichever point number 2 you want, as long as you keep the same X and Y together. Okay? So my Y2 in this case, I have negative 15. So negative 15 minus my Y1 is 0. All right, my x2, negative 11, minus my x1 is 3. And then I just need to simplify this. Negative 15 minus 0 gives me negative 15. Negative 11 minus 3, keep, change. So negative 11 plus negative 3 is negative 14. Now what do you notice here? I again have a negative over a negative. Negative divided by negative is positive. So my final answer here would be 15 over 14. All right. So this way, this formula is important for you to know. But again, we can do this any way we want. So what I've found in years past is people prefer when they get 2 points to make a table. All right, so the easy way to do that is just x, y. I've just got 2 points. Does not matter which one goes on top or bottom. Really, if you're thinking about a table, the smaller x would go on top. So I'll put negative 11, negative 15, and then 3, 0. But again, if you flip it, completely fine. All right, and then we do our little magic. What do I add or subtract to get from negative 11 to 3? What do I either have to add or subtract to get from negative 11 to 3? Good. I add 14. What do I add or subtract to get from negative 15 to 0? Good. I add 15. So change in y over change in x is positive 15 over 14. And look at that. We got the exact same answer both ways we did it. Okay. Let's see. All right, you guys try these two. Take about 2 minutes and try these two, using whichever method you prefer. let's take a peek at what you did. So again, x, y, I prefer the table method, so that's what I'm going to do. Negative 11, 10, 19, negative 2. Again, if you flipped them the other way, it's completely fine. It all simplifies to the same answer. To get from negative 11 to 19, so first I have to have 11 to 0 is 11. So plus another 19 gives me plus 30. To get from 10 to negative 2, I have to subtract, and in this case, I'm going to subtract, what is it, 12? All right, and then change in y over change in x, negative 12 over 30. I can simplify that, right? 3 goes into both of those. Or actually 6 goes into both of them, right? So I get negative 2 over 5 as I divide by 6 over 6. And remember, we use m for slope. M equals. All right, on the next one, let's say you just left it in this order and I went 12, negative 18, and then negative 15, negative 18. All right, so to get from 12 to negative 15, I'm going to have to subtract 27. From negative 18 to negative 18, I'm going to add 0. Change in y over change in x gives me 0 over negative 27. What is 0 divided by negative 27? Ooh, not this one. That's when 0's on the bottom. We can divide this one. So what's 0 divided by negative 27? Good, 0. Think about it this way, guys. Remember, like, let's go back to, like, basic first learned division. I have 0 items. I'm splitting them into 27 groups. How many will be in each group? 0. All right, so in this case, m equals 0. Okay. Classes are so much shorter now with this new schedule, which I think is helpful for you guys. But what it means is it might mean you have to complete a little bit more practice on your own time. But cool thing is we have small groups, which are, how long? 25, like 30-ish minutes or something. And you have it right after my class, which means that like you'll always have extra time to get work complete. So these are all of our notes for today. Let me stop recording.